Here are the stories we're covering this week in the Category 5.tv newsroom. Remember Microsoft's Patch Tuesday security update with all the critical security fixes? Sophos is telling its users to roll it back if they want to be able to boot their computer. Baltimore's ransomware nightmare could last weeks more, with big consequences as houses can't be sold and bills can't be paid while city networks are shuttered. South Korea wants to switch government computers to Linux-based software, ditching Microsoft Windows in the process. And Google admitted Tuesday its paid-for G Suite of cloudy apps aimed at businesses stored some user passwords in encrypted plain text. These stories are coming right up. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Category 5.tv newsroom, covering the week's top tech stories with a slight Linux bias.
Jeff Weston,
Yeah, man.
you're building a brand new, beautiful website,
What?
aren't you?
No. Am I?
Oh, you're a terrible actor.
What?
This is where acting comes into play.
Oh, I didn't know we were acting.
You're supposed to act.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
Yeah, I'm building a really cool website. Are you building a really cool website? Just because Jeff is confused doesn't mean you have to be. Visit cat5.tv/dreamhost to sign up for unlimited web hosting for your website with unlimited email accounts, MySQL databases, the latest version of PHP, WordPress, and more, and even a free domain name registration. It's less than $6 per month, so sign up today. cat5.tv/dreamhost.
I'm Sasha Rickman, and here are the top stories we're following this week. Remember Microsoft's Patch Tuesday security update with all the critical security fixes? Sophos is telling its users to roll it back if they want to be able to boot their computer. These are the same patches that protect servers against the latest Intel exploits. In an advisory note published over the weekend, Sophos admitted that the latest batch of Windows updates are causing the machines of some people using its antivirus software to hang on boot while getting stuck while displaying the message configuring 30%. Its advice on what to do is pretty blunt. Uninstall Windows Update. Specifically, revert KB4499164 and KB4499165. The problem with that advice is that the patches are intended to mitigate a nasty vulnerability which permits unauthenticated remote code execution through the remote desktop service. We pointed out last week that the issue is so serious that Microsoft has even released patches for its long unsupported operating systems, Windows 2003 and Windows XP. Sophos themselves have also reiterated the severity of this exploit, yet their advice remains: remove the fix. Microsoft is taking this bug very seriously, saying the vulnerability could be abused to spread a worm similar to the way the WannaCry propagated networks a couple of years back. So far, nobody has seen an in-the-wild use of the exploit for this vulnerability identified by Microsoft, but in this day and age, it's only a question of time, especially now that miscreants know about the issue. Quote, Sophos is working diligently on determining the issue and will provide ongoing customer guidance, end quote. In other words, they're being vague about what the problem is, how long it will be before they fix it for their users.
It's very concerning.
Being vague. Go figure.
Yeah,
Weird.
but a security company who says, hey, remove the security patches, that's dangerous.
Yeah. So,
And a dangerous precedent. to
exactly.
set. Yeah.
So asking somebody to remove the update that protects them from the WannaCry-like exploit seems worse to me than saying, I'm sorry that you've lost your computer. Hang tight, we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's stuck at 30%. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be saying to people now, just go ahead and uninstall that.
You know what? Let's fix the problem.
Yeah.
Make it so it's not a problem, I guess.
It makes me wonder if
I don't envy them.
if it was just somebody going, well, what do they do in the meantime? I'll just uninstall it. Like, you know, was somebody just not thinking, like, well, they can just get rid of it?
I think they just determined that this is a problem between Sophos and the Windows Update.
Yeah.
So what do? Do you remove Sophos? No.
You install Linux.
You don't
Well, yeah, but
But you don't
presumably-
uninstall the update that's going to protect against a huge ransomware exploit. Like, it's going to be huge.
can be.
It could be huge. Not. It's
I
going
mean,
to
this
be,
is a
I
code
realize.
execution exploit that allows not only the execution, but the propagation of a worm
Right.
on a network of computers. So with one compromised computer, which is easy to compromise,
Yeah.
and to elevate your privileges to a point where you can execute tasks as the administrator without any intervention or issue,
Yeah. I just
without even
picture-
having to know a password.
If it was serious enough that Windows was willing to,
Yeah.
like,
Microsoft.
Microsoft was like, "Hey, antiquated, unsupported operating systems here.
Yeah.
Like I will happily cover this update for you."
The problem is, though, chances are if somebody's still running an old version, like XP or something, their system may not be able to handle the upgraded software. Like, you couldn't just take an old XP computer and put Windows 10 on it. Like, it could grind to a halt.
But also that brings to mind another thought, is that if you're using Windows XP and you have Sophos, you are using an old version of Sophos.
Right.
Right.
You can't install the new version because it requires Windows 10.
Right.
That's something I haven't thought of. Yeah.
Could you just install Linux?
That's
That's the second time we've-
that's our answer to everything. Yes. If you want to
Dude,
breathe new
yeah.
life into your computer and forget about all these woes that you hear about week after week, because we're always going on about Microsoft screwing things up and breaking things and sitting at 30% updated and
Could you imagine
Sophos
how
battling.
frustrating that is? Especially
I
if you
can
get,
because I
es-
work in the industry.
Especially if you get to 30% quickly. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just clocking along. I'll just go whip up a grilled cheese or something.
Yeah.
Swing on back, like a half hour
still at
later, it's still at
30%.
30.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, wait, hold on here.
Something's up.
I always end up doing the updates overnight, and that way I don't have to care.
Oh, so you plan your Windows
I
updates?
plan my updates,
Wow.
Oh.
That's a novel idea.
so it doesn't impact
And
my
an-
day.
I don't like it when I
awfully
turn off the
onerous
computer
process.
and my two options are update and shut down or update and restart. And I'm like, oh, wait now. That's it.
And from the mind of Solbu in our chat room, who says computers are like air conditioners, they don't work properly if you open Windows.
Oh,
Burn.
Last word. Mic drop.
Yeah.
Baltimore's ransomware nightmare could last weeks more, with big consequences as houses can't be sold and bills can't be paid while city networks are shuttered. It's been nearly 2 weeks since the city of Baltimore's networks were shut down in response to a ransomware attack, and there's still no end in sight to the attack's impact. It might be weeks more before the city's services return to something resembling normal. Manual workarounds are being put in place to handle some services now, but the city's water billing and other payment systems remain offline, as well as most of the city's emails and much of the government's phone systems. Unlike the city of Atlanta, which suffered from a SamSam ransomware attack in March of 2018, Baltimore has no insurance to cover the cost of a cyber attack. So the cost of cleaning up the Robinhood ransomware, which will far exceed the approximately $70,000 the ransomware operators demanded, will be borne entirely by Baltimore citizens. Baltimore's information security manager warned of the need for such a policy during a budget hearing last year, but in the final budget did not include funds for that policy, nor did it include funding for expanded security training for city employees or other strategic investments that were part of the mayor's strategic plan for the city's information technology infrastructure. City officials have provided a few details about the extent of the attack, as the city is cooperating with an FBI investigation. But it appears that the ransomware was triggered on some systems in the early hours of May 7th when email service was suddenly interrupted. The city's response to the attack has thrown many city services into disorder or shut them down entirely. The attack was first reported by Baltimore's Department of Public Works when the department's official Twitter account announced that its email access was cut off, and it reported phones and other systems were affected soon afterward. As it became clear what was happening, the city's Office of Information Technology team shut down nearly all of the city's non-emergency systems to prevent the further spread of the attack. It's not clear how widespread the ransomware was within the network, but the city's email and IP-based phones were among the systems affected. The Mayor's Office of Information Technology has been struggling to regain its footing over the past 2 years after a string of fired chief information officers. 4 consecutive CIOs were fired or forced to resign over a period of 5 years. Frank Johnson, who now holds the titles of both CIO and digital officer for the city, was hired in November 2017 after leaving a position as a regional vice president of sales for Intel. Johnson led the development of a digital strategy for the city that aimed to bring Baltimore's IT spending more in line with those of similar-sized cities and transform its IT practices. According to a 2018 strategy document, Baltimore spends about half of what other cities budget for IT, and the Office of Information Technology only controls about 1% of the total budget. The city's primary website is hosted on Amazon Web Services and operated by a contractor. But the city almost lost that website earlier this month, too, but not because of ransomware. The contract for operating the site had expired, and the city was delinquent in its payments.
First of all, did they use Sophos by any chance? Did they remove the patches that were going to protect them from this?
I feel like as this story went on, this was just a series of
unfortunate
horrible
events,
mistakes that could have easily have prevented the whole thing. When you're
Can
sitting
you
there going,
imagine?
oh, they had an IT strategy, but they didn't put it in
Follow
place
through.
for it.
Yeah.
They talked about increasing the budget line for training, but they didn't. Oh, they had people that weren't doing their job, so they got rid of them and they hired somebody else, but it didn't work. It's like, come
And they didn't
on.
listen.
Yeah.
So they finally hired an IT person who knows what they're doing
Right?
who
and doesn't
pitched,
listen to them.
Right, who pitched a great idea,
Yeah.
and they just ignored them. Like, can you imagine that guy being like, knock, knock, knock? I just want to say,
told
I
you so.
told you so.
Exactly.
So remember that
But,
thing that I told you might happen and probably would happen?
But you know
It
what
has
sucks?
happened.
You
Now
know what sucks? He's a person just like us.
Right.
It's still his job.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
still just trying to eke your way through life, you know?
Right. And now these ransomware guys that have got a hold on that city.
For the
right?
second time in 12 months.
Right. So now what?
Listen to your IT manager, the person that you hired to be your CIO, and put some money into infrastructure that is going to protect you from these types of attacks. Don't be an idiot.
I truly feel like people need to wise up in today's
Sure they do.
tech-based
Why does it
world.
take having to have an entire city compromised twice in a row? Are they going to wise up now?
They gotta be smart. Like, I get budgets, I get, cost savings, but there are certain things that you just don't want to ignore. It's kind of like life insurance. You should have life insurance because you never know what's going to happen in life. And a lot of people are like, oh, I can't afford life insurance, I don't want to. It's maybe I'll never die. But you want to have that protection. And it's same with the tech. Like, it's going to happen. In today's world, something bad is going to happen. Protect yourself.
Right. So now the city of Baltimore, the residents are going to have to foot the bill for the ransomware.
Yep.
Hold on.
And
Not
then-
even. Just
and
to
then-
recover.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is
Okay?
more than the
And then-
Consider this. The cost to mitigate proactively would have been less
Right.
than the cost to mitigate reactively.
Right.
Think about that. The number of days that have been lost by workers, the amount of money that they're having to still pay staff
Yeah.
who have to bring in their home laptop because they can't use
Right.
work computers.
I can't,
But not only that, I mean,
can't imagine.
you
I
got
don't
the-
want to imagine.
But you think about the fact that people can't pay their water bill. What happens when the city goes, okay, we got it all fixed now. I know it's been 3 months, but you now owe us 3 months of water bill. And people are going, I don't have 3 months of water bill.
Yeah.
Like, that money's gone. Now, granted, they should have budgeted, but is there going to be repercussions to this where it's like, I know we couldn't take your money for 3 months, but now you owe us everything. and because we got to pay for
And a
what we
fee
just paid
for late payment.
So you're thinking they're going to have to collect on debts to
Yeah.
themselves in order
I
to
could totally see that
cover
happening.
this. Yeah. And that's just not fair to the citizens who are probably sitting there thinking like I am, what the heck?
Yeah,
What is our government doing?
it's too bad.
I mean, and this trickles down. This is not just a government thing. This is not
Right.
just a Baltimore thing. This is a business thing. I've had customers who have been in the same situation where ransomware has hit after I've made suggestions for proactive prevention
Right.
and backups. Backups are a huge deal.
Oh,
And ransomware has hit. And then they look at the cost of recovery. Okay, let's get back up and running. We're back in business 2 weeks later, right? After losing so much business and so much time. And then, okay, let's just keep going along. Okay, we've recovered. No, hold on.
Wait.
You still don't have active backups. You still don't have proactive protection against this thing, and you still have bloomin' remote desktop turned on your computers. What the heck are you thinking? No,
Yeah.
we need to stop this now so that it doesn't happen again, and then it happens again. This is what happened to Baltimore.
Right.
And this is what I've seen time and time again, and it's infuriating, and yet I'm just the indignant IT guy that is like, I told you so. Right, I told
Yeah.
you so, but not
But
so
you
much
can't
as
say, "I
not
told
not
you,"
to rub it
you're
in your
like-
face, but to say,
exactly.
"Come on, please listen to me.
Right. So
Please just spend the money
so
proactively."
what does your script kind of sound like? Okay, this time you didn't prevent it, but let's fix it and let's prevent it for the future. Like,
It always comes down to the money, though, and that's
right.
where it's like, okay, you need to be proactive.
But how do they assume that they're not going to be hit again? Like, how do they assume they're not going to be
Nobody
hit to begin
assumes they're going to
with?
be hit twice. Nobody assumes they're going to be hit three
and
times.
that's the issue.
But
People think they're not going to hit. I already got hit.
Yeah.
I'm good. They're going to move on. It doesn't work that way.
But you still have remote desktop turned on, and I think we need to get through our heads too that ransomware attacks are very often untargeted.
right.
We fall into this complacent state where we believe that ransomware attacks are targeted.
No, they're just looking.
Why
Right,
would
it's not a
anyone want to attack
person-
me?
Exactly. It's not a person looking at you as a business or a
Right.
company. It's
You're
a
just a
bot
number.
that's just looking
Yep.
for an open door, and then they find it and they get you.
It's so think of it this way. So ransomware is the teenage kid that is walking through a parking lot of a mall, pulling on every door handle,
Right.
pulling on every door handle just to see what one opens.
Yeah.
And as soon as one opens, what do? I'm not saying teenage kids are bad. This is just an
It's just
example, just
random.
to put an analogy on
Broad
there for
painting
you.
of the brush.
A door opens. What's on the seat? What's easy to grab?
Right.
Right? So similarly, if you've got doors open and they're walking around, these are the bots.
Yeah.
They're just walking around pulling on door handles. It's not a targeted thing. It wasn't your car that they targeted. You left the stupid door open.
That's right.
So lock your doors, folks.
Yep.
And if it costs money to put a lock in, then do it. And if we've learned anything from Baltimore, that's what it is.
Listen to Robbie.
Yeah, buy my antivirus. Yeah, that'd be a good sale.
That would be great.
Except they have no money left.
True. South Korea wants to switch government computers to Linux-based software.
Nice.
Yeah, ditching Microsoft Windows in the process. The country's Ministry of the Interior and Safety believe that migrating away from Microsoft Windows will lower costs and reduce reliance on a single operating system. With 2020 bringing the end of free support for Windows 7, a system widely used throughout the South Korean government, the timing is prudent. There's no word yet on what sort of Linux distribution South Korea might use or whether the government would create its own, but there are a few hurdles Linux needs to clear first. Although Linux is free to use for anybody, even government, moving to a Linux-based OS is not a cost-free endeavor. In fact, the ministry expects switching to Linux will cost a cool $655 million US. That takes into account the price of implementation, transition, and the purchase of new PCs. The ministry plans to test run Linux on its systems to check for compatibility and security issues, and if no major issues are encountered during the pilot run, then Linux systems will roll out more widely, potentially serving as the catalyst for more governments to adopt Linux. Whether South Korea switches to Linux in the end or not, it's nice that Linux is being viewed as a viable, practical choice by those in charge.
Well, I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Way to go, South Korea. You rock.
That's kind of the trend that we're in, though, right? Like, if you are on Windows 7 in your networks and you have to upgrade or pay for support after January, why not be looking at Ubuntu?
Sure.
Why not be looking at some flavor of Linux that is a rolling release? There's no, with Linux, there's none of this Windows 7, Windows 10, whatever's next, and having to buy and upgrade every computer. No, you can roll out rolling upgrades. When a new version comes out, you roll to the next version.
Right.
And it continues to be free. So you're reallocating those funds from licensing to labor, essentially.
Right.
So you're giving jobs to your people. And funding families and people within your community, and at the same time, licensing. You're using the license of free software.
Right.
I think
South
that's
Korea.
fantastic.
You will not be the last. You may be the first, but you will not be the last.
Not even the first.
I don't know.
No,
you may
I think
be.
there's-
But it's big. I mean, that's a
That's
big
big.
number,
That's a
and
huge-
so I'm not sure what number of computers that represents, but it's got to be huge.
Right.
More than 5.
At least 5. At least 5.
At least 5.
Yeah. And it has, we talk about antivirus and things like that. And so then it's like, okay, well, how does that impact the bottom line of antivirus now?
Yeah.
Anti-malware.
Right.
And then we've got to start looking at, okay, so even if you're on Linux, you still need to have some kind of proactive protection so that if there are rogue things occurring within your network, that you are aware of those.
Yep.
Right.
So it shifts. You're shifting from antivirus, because viruses are not an issue, to simple remediation of, or even being able to monitor assets in such a way that you can track malicious traffic.
I wonder
Does
if
Nagios cover
South
that much?
No, Nagios
Network?
is a notification subsystem, so a different thing altogether. But
could South Korea just like call Baltimore? Not right now because their phones aren't working, but like
and laugh at them.
be like, hey guys, we've got this great idea. You might
Yeah,
wanna
hey,
do
switch
it."
to Linux.
That's
Yeah.
at the top of their list, Sasha. There's nothing else they're worried about, but that's at the top of the list.
If this works out, you might want to give it a try.
Oh my goodness, that's funny.
If Ubuntu gets the contract, maybe Canonical can make that call.
That's right. Google admitted Tuesday its paid-for G Suite of cloudy apps aimed at businesses stored some user passwords in encrypted plain text. Hashing is a standard industry practice that protects credentials by scrambling them using a one-way encryption algorithm. Administrators of accounts affected by the security blunder were warned via email that, in certain circumstances, passwords had not been hashed. Google was at pains to stress it was the enterprise, non-consumer version of G Suite affected, that there were no signs of misuse of the passwords, and that the passwords were encrypted at rest on the disk. Though, because they were not hashed, their sensitive contact was not fully secured. Suzanne Fry, Google VP of Engineering and Cloud Trust, explains of the administrator's ability to change user passwords. Quote, "We made an error when implementing this functionality back in 2005. The admin console stored a copy of the unhashed password. This practice did not live up to our standards. To be clear, these passwords remained in our secure encrypted infrastructure. This issue has been fixed, and we have seen no evidence of improper access or misuse of the affected passwords." Further, she went on to advise of a second flaw, this one in the user login system, saying, "We discovered that starting in January 2019, we had inadvertently stored a subset of unhashed passwords in our secure encrypted infrastructure. These passwords were stored for a maximum of 14 days. This issue has been fixed, and again, we have seen no evidence of improper access to or misuse of the affected passwords. We will continue with our security audits to ensure that this is an isolated incident, end quote. Google has already begun changing passwords for affected accounts that have not already done so.
Well, I mean, that's a good news story that it wasn't used maliciously. I can't help,
That we know of.
right, but I can't
Right.
help but wonder, how did it go on since 2005 and not get noticed?
Because I don't know.
They're being very transparent about it, and so there are, there's a couple of different facets to this story, and that, okay, well, who did have access to it? And
Right.
were there any exploits that would have allowed a malicious party to access that data? Of course, internal staff could have accessed that data, but there's no evidence to say that they did.
Right.
So it's in internal infrastructure.
Yeah, so it's like they're there and they're like locked away on a disk, like not to be accessed from the outside world, and they
Right.
are somewhat encrypted.
They're encrypted, but they're not hashed. So
Right. So they're like first level of. They were like passworded with password 123 kind of thing. There's
What?
a password there. It's just not super
no,
great.
well, let's to summarize what this means as far as security goes. So,
Yeah.
an encrypted block can theoretically be de-encrypted or
Right.
Right.
unencrypted, so that data can be recovered and,
Right.
and reversed.
Oh, okay.
A hashed block or of information, typically, if it's done correctly, is done in such a way that it's one direction, though encrypted, But if it's properly done like a hash, if it's just a
Right.
hash, then it's not reversible.
Okay.
So how does that make sense? So what use is it if you can't reverse it? So if you say to me, okay, my password is password 123,
Right.
and I say, okay, here's my hashing algorithm, and that is now hashed as this,
Okay.
and it's this bunch of gibberish. Okay, so I can never take that hashed information and turn it back into password 123. However, because I know the hashing algorithm, if you ever come to me with the password and say, my password is password 123, I can then hash that and say, okay, let's compare that to the hash. Does it match? Yes, it matches. I'll allow you access. So even though I don't know your password, I don't know what the hash is, or the decrypted hash, I do know that if you enter your password again, I can hash again using the same algorithm and will result in the same result.
This is the moment where I get it.
Yeah? Okay. Versus encryption, which is
Yeah.
taking password 123 and just obfuscating it and encrypting it, which
Right.
can then be unencrypted back into password 123.
Got it.
It's a different direction of the protection.
Right.
So hashing is much more secure.
Okay.
Significantly
and
so.
Google has said this, right? Like when you know better, you do better. Like they've said, okay.
Sure.
This
And
is
they
the
know better.
deal.
Yeah.
They know better.
Yeah,
and
some intern got let go over this, I'm sure.
I'm
Yeah,
sure.
but they were around in 2005.
they might already be retired.
It was probably me. All right, well, we've got to jump into our cryptocurrency market just to see where things lie, and things are not looking quite as nice as they were last week. I mean, if you took my advice, which I did not give, but if you bought Bitcoin last week, of course, it was high, and it's gone down about $430 US. It is now sitting at $7,711.65. Litecoin is down to $88.54 US dollar equivalent. Ethereum is the one coin that we track that has gone up just a little ways by $4.23 US and is currently sitting at $245.17. Monero is at $84.19, also losing about $8. And Torque, aka Stellite or PKA Stellite, is down at 1.54, 10,000ths of a cent. And your turtle coin, Jeff, I'm sorry, is only at 1.26 10,000ths of a cent.
That's right.
So those 3 turtle coin you have, keep
I have more than
saving.
3.
Yeah, do you?
I have more than 3.
Well done, sir.
I actually lost count.
Yeah, that's a good place to be in when it comes
Yep.
to cryptocurrency.
Of course. Big thanks to Roy W. Nash and our community of viewers for submitting stories to us this week. Thanks for watching the Category 5.TV newsroom. Don't forget to like and subscribe for all your tech news with a slight Linux bias. And for more free content, be sure to check out our website. From the Category 5.TV newsroom, I'm Sasha Rickman.
And I'm Robbie Ferguson.
And I'm Jeff Weston.